So, what is it about Bridges Out of Poverty that I think is so amazing? When I go back and I think about the last years of working with different communities, when I'm together with a group of like-minded people who then get a common language and a common understanding and they understand the concepts, it explodes. And people are so able to move forward, to make plans, to change communities. And then when they add the getting ahead piece, it just continues to change the whole trajectory of what's happening in a community within institutions. And those individuals' lives are changed that are investigators that go through and graduate. In my community, we see how much it's changing 2 and even 3 generations.
I do believe that getting ahead and Bridges Out of Poverty is a balancing act. And getting ahead balances the amazing work that's already happening in communities. And it also allows for folks who are experiencing poverty to not only take the reins and break the cycle of poverty off of their lives and their families, but it empowers their voices to be at the table, to be a part of informing what's happening in our communities, to inform what's happening in our organizations. So getting ahead balances the amazing work that's taking place with Bridges Out of Poverty.
It may not sound like much, going to a class when you don't really know exactly what it's about. You're not sure if it's about budgeting or poverty or if it's just a way to get away from your kids for a night a week. There is nothing like the feeling of having people around you who genuinely understand what you've been through. Before I took Getting Ahead, I really didn't think that anybody got it. I felt like there was nobody in the world that saw me. Nobody saw me. Like they would like know me on a surface level, or they would like to get to know me. But when I went to Getting Ahead for the first time, I felt like someone genuinely looked at me and was like, I hear you. I get that you're going through something and I want to help. And I just really do encourage anybody to try it out at least.
Getting Ahead showed me that I had a voice. I was able to voice how I felt. I was able to understand that I could go out to my community or out to the churches, and with that voice would become empowering to talk about poverty in our own neighborhoods. Mentors can't tell people what to do, but you can help guide. So if you're in a program where you can help guide people into what's next, that's empowering. And that was like my aha moment, that I had that in me, this information, that knowledge now, that piece of my life that I can go ahead and pour into someone else, help download that information and change people's lives. That changes perspective.
So Bridges and Getting Ahead dovetail nicely in the kind of work that we do because there's an emphasis on relationship, an emphasis on treating people with respect, and gaining understanding of why maybe people do things a little bit differently, but not in a way that's meant to like look down on any one group. And so we find with that kind of round table, as the Bridges work says, that we're able to effectively build a variety of cross-sectional partnerships that allow us to address various needs in the community. And then being a faith community, we have a lot of agency and mobility, because as long as we can justify it faithfully, right, according to our beliefs, then we can go ahead and do it. So if it's ethical and if it's faithful, then we can find a way to engage. So it's really great because we get to move all around the 11 resources, and we get to deal on all 4 areas of research.
One of the things that I really appreciate about the Bridges, work is that they focus on individuals, they focus on organizations and businesses solutions, and then also community solutions. Because we know that in order to address poverty, we have to address the individual needs. But for organizations, we also have to make some adjustments, whether it's with the questions that we ask, with the type of language that we're using in those questions. So we know we have to address organizations, and then we have to address the community as well, because individuals will not get out of poverty unless we have some community-wide solutions as well.
we've had a diverse group of people take Getting Ahead. So one of my favorite stories comes from a person who lives on a fixed income. Due to her age, that fixed income probably isn't going to change for her. And she was in one of our first groups that met at a church in her little hamlet. And she said that before she was just sitting at home all the time. She said, but now I'm so busy, I can't even make it to Staying Ahead because I'm out in my community, I'm volunteering at church, I'm helping do things. People in my town know who I am now. Getting Ahead gave me the courage to get out and do things. And I love that story because it's not just about the financial resource, it's about her emotional resource, it's about her social capital, all those things that Getting Ahead is good at too.
In my work in Dubuque, where we were applying Bridges and Getting Ahead, what we discovered was opportunities for communication between people coming from different backgrounds. Getting Ahead gives people who have experienced generational poverty or instability an opportunity to investigate their own experiences, not through the lens of what's wrong with you, but more through the lens of what have I experienced and how does that inform the way I live my life, and how can I use the strengths from my own experience to build into goals and future stories that maybe at some time might have thought inaccessible, might have felt like I couldn't get to those. Getting Ahead allows people to experience really a relational strength building experience. And then if you couple that with middle-class people, middle-class organizations that have been exposed to Bridges principles, you create an opportunity for a shared conversation with common language. And it makes a huge difference. And again, it's hard to quantify some of the changes because they're life change, and not so much numerical change, but the numerical change is reflected in perhaps employment with a greater income or educational attainment or surveys of life satisfaction and stability. We see those numerical gains, but it's really in the stories of individuals where it really takes root.